So thank you so much again for coming and joining me in this Superpower of Empath class. And I cannot be more grateful that you are waiting for almost half hour for this. And how to start? Well, I would like to start again the same way I just talked about, is that we are now ending the time of the Pisces and coming into the Aquarius age. And the time of the Pisces for the last 2000 years was holding a global archetypes that are now outdated. They don't work anymore. They don't hold the power. What does that mean? Well, the Pisces were two fishes, right? The polar opposites. One was hidden on the bottom and one was on the top in the light. So the one on the bottom and one on the light, to the top, was constantly in the battles, right? And anything that is hidden is seeking to come out. And this is kind of the nature of the law of nature. And that's what we were exactly experiencing for the 2000 years. Polar opposites of constant black, white, good, bad, Republican, Democrat, Christian, Muslim. So this is that whole opposition. And also we had the feminine and the masculine, right? They were constantly in the battle. And then the feminine energy was on the bottom trying to come out. But every time it came out, it was squashed down. So we also seen that symbolically. And the biggest symbol that we can all relate to was Jesus. When he came and he eventually ended his life, no, he didn't end his life. When he eventually got into the end of his life, we had been hearing this narrative that it was something to do with he was a victim and some powerful forces overpowered him physically and he had been crucified, right? And so he's not the only one that for the last 2000 years experienced such a experience, not necessarily crucifixion, but burning on the stake, being jailed for no reason, being punished, being silent. And we still see it today. Why? Well, I feel that the Aquarius age, the light, the Aquarius stands for energy that seeks truth. It will do whatever it takes to get the darkness out. And so that's exactly what's happening, is that every single time the energy of the truth was trying to come out, it was the darkness was coming over. The Aquarius age doesn't see the archetype of Jesus as a victim, the other way around. It sees that it holds incredible power, a force that there's no stronger power in the universe than the one that Jesus was holding. So how does all that actually come to this empath series that we're talking about? But very much so. So when we look into an empath and empathy is a birthright. Every single one of us are born empaths. And I want you to sit with that. Because once you start thinking about it, you're going to say, well, that person's not an empath and that person does it. Yeah, well, we are all born empaths. And empathy is ability to feel, especially somebody else's emotions, right? Empathy also comes from the word empathia, which is the passion, the emotion, but also pathos, which is the suffering. So it's interesting because I feel the life of Jesus was actually the life of suffering, because I can imagine what he was feeling, because he felt so strongly. And that's what exactly empaths do. They feel so strongly. So once we look into the empath and we are born into the family unit in the nucleus, and we understand that the last 2000 years, maybe longer, I'm not sure, we had very broken family units. And we see it in the first murder in the Bible, right? The Cain and Abel. We see that the family units had effect on the empaths. And two things happen. They broke off from that pure feeling of the heart. Some of the people had decided that that feeling was so intense, they turned it off. They turned down the dial of feeling and became numb. And those are the people who walking around and they pretty much walking dead. They have a heartbeat, but they don't feel much. They don't have that internal GPS. So they do not know a lot of times the basics, the right and the wrong, because they're so clueless. But they really strongly pushing the agendas of listening to the professionals, the ones who are the experts, who hold the degrees. And I feel that this is the reason, because they cannot figure out on their own the truth or the guidance. So they now created this system where we can find the truth in somebody else who has that, because they went through the right schools. So that is one group. But if I go back into the empaths who feel, there's another group. And that group, a lot of people call the narcissist. Okay, so let's just put that aside, because I really do not like the word. And I will replace it with dark empath. So now we have the light empath and the dark empath. Okay, so now we're going again with kind of the polarization that they both feel. However, the dark empath has something that the light empath does not. The light empath has this nature of living from the heart, not from their head. The dark empath has cognitive empathy. They understand the emotions, but they don't get ruled by them. And so so I'm going to say this again. The light empath, they only know how to love, how to work from their heart. They would appear to many people as not smart, because they truly, and they simple, but they pure. They like childlike. They do things with no agenda. They don't have the foresight of what their actions going to do or not do. They don't have the ability to understand darkness, because it's not in them. It's just not. It doesn't register in them. So they literally are 30, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, and they are like childlike. So a lot of people think, oh, they're not that smart. Well, okay, you can go with that. But then you have the dark empaths who don't feel, but they understand the emotions. That's cognitive empathy. They do not lose themselves in the emotions of others. The light empath, unfortunately, does, because the emotions overpowers them. And we will talk about that more clearly. But I want to go between those two so you understand what we're talking about. So yes, you can call them narcissists if you want. Again, it would be an okay description, but I feel they're all labels. And I feel when you name something, you almost lose the accountability for it. You again create the good and the bad. And the Aquarius age is not interested in that. We are not interested anymore of looking for the bad guys and the good guys. We are looking into neutralizing things. So that's kind of where it is. It's just a choices that people make. And I'm not really sure why one person turns out this way or that way. I feel the more and more I had studied this from clients and my own experience for the last 9 years. I mean, that was pretty much on my plate every single day. I was fascinated with that subject. And so I figured that the family nucleus has this kind of a cookie cutter recipe. And one of the parents are usually the dark empaths. Okay. Sometimes they both are, but usually the one. And again, it's not about blaming them. Okay. I'm not going into that, but let's just say it is whatever it is. And then the dark empath then creates this dynamic that the dark empaths can understand things, but also manipulates things with deception, with creative thought process. They can see how things are working out. And more than anything, they carry a deep, deep, deep insecurities and fear. And after, underneath all that is all the lower vibrations. They know how to manipulate with guilt, with shame. They know how to grab you with your weakness, which is if it's a fame, money, if it's a fashion, if it's a career, relationships, they know exactly how to manipulate you, right? And So when you are born into that family, usually there is a the golden child, and then there is the scapegoat, right? So there's, and honestly, that's not even true either, because they go back and forth. It depends how that situation evolves in the family dynamics. I found that, and of course, they always pin the siblings against each other. That's a recipe. Again, I feel like it's coming from the Cain and Abel, literally. It's that as long as you are divided and separated, you're not strong, right? So as long as the siblings are divided, then the parent, the dark empath, is safer. So I also found that it's obviously very damaging. And again, this is the broken families we're talking about. But if there is a light empath in the sphere of the family, there's a light in the tunnel. However, it's still very, very dysfunctional. I also have seen that if the dark empath is a mother, the damage of the child is much greater. And especially if it's a female daughter born to the female, right? Because you are 9 months bathing in that vibration. And you coming from obviously God, right? From the pure love into this vibration of now the closest thing to God's love is the motherly love. Okay, that's what we were taught, right? So if the mother is actually dark empath, it creates confusion right from the start. The first breath you take as a human being, the first vibration you think it's love, it's only imitation love. It is only, sweet and low. It's not sugar. So the mother cannot give you something she doesn't have. So that is very confusing, because that's the first vibration you feel comfortable, because you most are comfortable in your first environment, that imprinting on you in the cellular level. So your whole life, you have a compass looking for that kind of love. It's damaging. It's dysfunctional. It's manipulative. It is all that what I was just saying. If the dark empath is father, it's a little bit easier, but not so much, not that much. It's still very confusing, because it is important part of the family unit, of the nucleus. So if the mother is there, often she's weak. She doesn't have the ability, again, because it's archetypal that females over the last 2,000 years didn't have strength, right? So you couldn't ask your mother to be the warrior for you if that whole society is not there to support her, right? So if the mother was not there for the child while the father was abusive, emotionally, mentally, physically, however, that also creates a very damaging environment for the child. And that could create the narcissist. You see, you constantly acting like the dad. You could take the traits as a mom, or you can take the traits as a dad. That is, to me, a choice. It also, I think, it has to do with the evolution of the soul. The younger souls will go into the easier path, because as you learn through this class, living as an empath, it's not the light empath. It's not an easy, and either way, it's not easy. So keep this in mind, that we were talking about the birth of these empaths and how they are, right? Like, so the light empaths are very creative, because as many of you heard me saying, creativity and intuition or feeling, intuition, creativity is the same vibration. Creativity, intuition, and sexuality is the same. It is the same frequency. It's the same thing. They have this magnetic force around them that is very addictive to the opposite, which we're going to talk about the opposite. The creativity shows really early on, and light empaths like to be artists, singers, anything but the studies, serious studies. And it's not always the truth, okay? but it's just naturally driven into something they can show their creativity because they know that academia is not based in the truth. It's partially truth, but science is nothing more than art of naming. We already know that, right? So they are more drawn into the more abstract life and abstract thinking because the academia is very blocky, it's blocked up, and they feel suffocated in it. So that's some way you can see the light empath. They also are so transparent, they can't hold a lie. That it feels so kind of like I need to get it out, so they get it out. So don't tell them secrets because most likely they can't keep them. And they don't mean it a bad way. And if it's something really dear to your heart, then not. But like some kind of a darkness or they don't want anything to do with it because they know they can't hold it. It's not good for their bodies. It really isn't. It feels dirty. So they have to get it out. They also I love to say this, and I'm going to say this twice. They are manifestation of the environment. I'm going to say this again. They are manifestation of their environment. What does that mean? Because they are so transparent. They're like a glass of clear water. Okay. If anything enters in them, you will know it right away. If it doesn't belong to the purity, it will come out. And so if they are in an environment that is negative, they become negative. If the environment is gossipy, they'll become gossipy. If the environment is, whatever, fun, they will be fun. So they have to be very careful where they are. If they are in a relationship for too long with negativity, they become so muddied that they do not know where they start and where they end. So if they are married for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years, they already lost themselves. Their water, their existence is so muddy, they do not know who they are. And hopefully they realize it and they can clean themselves up. But that's what we're going to talk about later on. But children are a very good example of that. If you have children and you drop them off in school and pick them up, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have them in the back seat and you're like, who the hell is that kid? This is not how I raised them. It's exactly it because they picked up over the 7 hours sitting in the classroom all the energies from Johnny and Martha and the teacher, and they are not good. And they can't help it until they clean themselves again with the energy of your household, right? So again, manifestation of their environment. If they are pure empaths, that's how they are. Children are very much like that. So that becomes a really great ground for dark empaths and the light empaths together. They have this, or let me just go back to it. If they are in the energy of the negativity and they embody in it too much and they lose themselves, the body starts manifesting diseases because they didn't clean it right away. So it just starts just diseases becomes more and more heavier. Sometimes I see a lot of beautiful empaths gain a lot of weight. Like you see a lot of psychics and a lot of mediums who work with the spirit because they do not know how to work with it all the way. They are heavy because they're picking up stuff it's not theirs. They also feel the light empaths because they feel so much, and when they realize that, oh, yuck, I don't like this feeling, they also become very isolated often. Because if they voice what they actually feel and nobody else has the same eyes, they not become welcomed. So if they see darkness, they will name it. If there's something going on, they'll name it. But they're not going to be popular because nobody wants someone around that would be the truth speaker. That makes people very uncomfortable and it makes them they just don't know what's going to come out of your mouth, so they better not have you around. It takes a lot of self-esteem to be around pure empath. And so a lot of people subconsciously don't want them around. So they become alone because I don't think there's enough of them. And once I was saying that they start mixing up with the dark empaths, there becomes a ground for soul evolution. So before we start into the soul evolution, let's talk about a little bit the dark empaths. The dark empaths, like we were saying, is nothing more than the um, pro, pro, product of the family dynamics, because I feel that we came here as a pure vessel. So, we didn't been born 100% narcissist, even though we are, every single one of us, born narcissists. Okay. And again, if you had babies around, there's a time, me, I, so it's a natural archetype, but it's all about balancing it, right? So it's okay to have that little bit of the self-love, but not completely exaggerated. So it has to be always on that balance scale. So the dark empath, as we talked about, they use the cognitive empathy for gain, for power, for fame, to gain relationships, and nothing will stop them. Because they do not tap into their own creativity, those people are not creative. They steal other people's creations. They lost that ability because they're not tapping into their feelings. Remember, they understand emotions, they just don't feel them. And so they also know exactly how to work you. They know with their charm what you want and what you don't want. And they make sure that they get you. So if, for example, if you are big-hearted empath and your whole thing is about helping people, they will come like a victims. That's the easiest. And you are saving the world. And in the meantime, they don't really care. And guess what? Dark empaths do not care about getting better. They're not caring about your ideas. They don't care about you trying to heal them. They're not interested in anything more than your juicy energy. That's it. They want your energy. They want your creativity. They want your the connection to the source that you have. They don't have it. They cut themselves off of it because the heart is connected to the soul, and the soul is connected to the universe, universal soul, God, creation, whatever you want to call it. And so the light empath knows how to connect to that easily. It's in them that they just know how to regroup, rejuvenate. They know all of these things. But the dark empath closed it. So they only know how to take it from someone else. And so they actually are the victims, really, because they are constantly going and chasing the next meal to feed them energetically. So when they are around the dark empaths, around the light empaths, of course, if you think about it, okay, now I have this source of energy, I want it all for myself. So they will not necessarily want to drag you through parties or events or get you to the platform that makes you famous. Mm-mm. They're gonna lock you up in a house, bedroom, office, whatever, and make sure that nobody knows that you even exist. That would be their goal. So cutting you off from the family members, from your friends would be the first thing. And they usually have that whole in the name of love, right? They'll give you everything you want. If you want to travel, they travel all over the world. If you want the most fashionable shoes or a fancy jewelry, they will get you whatever the heck you want in order to lock you up because you are the source of energy. So, let's see. And obviously, the light empath also in the family unit is the one who kind of is the one everybody goes to in a family, when they get older. They're the ones that takes care of the family. But it's not necessarily, see, this is the thing. The light empath doesn't look for recognition, the opposite. So sometimes the people who doing the good work are not the ones. Like I take care of the parents. I take care of this. I'm doing all of this. I'm saving the world, and you need to like see the pictures that I have on I don't know website. I am praying for the water and the Everglades and all of the things that they keep talking about. They doing it only for the reason to get a recognition. Again, this is a juice. But the people who actually doing it, the ones that I even like talking to, who are truly the pure empaths, they don't want any of that. You don't never gonna even meet them. They don't even have a website. So it's not their priority because they have been hurt so much. They have been ridiculed. They have been beaten down. They have been beaten down once, twice, three times, four times in their life, and they got themselves back up. And this is the cycle of life. Suffering is literally their word. They are not interested in humans. They don't like humans that much. They love them, but it's so hard to be around them. So it's almost like a double-edged sword. The other way around, the ones who are running these companies and saving the world, they're not really caring for anyone but their mindy pockets and a cushy job. So that's something that it comes with the Aquarius age as we go, and we will see that more coming to the surface. And we do, don't we? I mean, if you pay attention, you see, oh, this company's going down or that person is exposed. So more and more, it's, really showing their true colors. I also feel that as much as the empath went through so much suffering, deception on the deepest level, you guys, on the deepest level, betrayals, broken hearts, you can't even imagine. They do not have ability to go to anger. They just don't. They don't have revenge in their cellular memory. They just don't. They somehow love their humanity so much that they cannot bear to have a revenge. They don't care. They just move on. They just close the chapter and open a new book. And that's truly a wonder, really, because you just, somebody behind them, like, you need to do this, you need to search for revenge. And they don't see it that way because, again, the Aquarius age is not about revenge. It's about revelation. The empaths are not fighting the darkness, they illuminate the darkness. That's the difference. That's a big difference. So I'm going to talk about a couple different ways that you could sense and dark empaths. So in a personal life, dark empaths love, when you are in a conversation with them, they love to deflect, deny, confuse. That's the biggest one. What do you mean? I already told you that. Don't you remember that? No, I don't remember that. No, 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 yeah, you don't remember, but I did. And they didn't do that, right? So it's a confusion. When you get into the sense of confusion, you lose your footing and you off balance, and that's when you get pushed over. That's something to really think about. So confusion is a sign when you feel confused or they make you look like you are confused. That is just definitely the game of a dark empath. And sometimes the dark empaths could be hiding, behind a corporation or businesses that you're dealing with. I still feel like it's very much currency that it's used still. They would like to bring old laundry from years ago back to the table. If it's not even relevant anymore, but they do. Again, because it's a deflection. And the biggest secrets you told them, they will bring it up and throw it in your face. Again, it's heartbreaking. Their kindness is not consistent. Consistency is something, you keep that in mind. Consistency. So if they are nice, they're always going to be nice. If they jerks, they're always going to be jerks. If they moody, they're always going to be moody. And that's okay. All of this is okay, but it needs to be consistent. And so the empath is not lovey-dovey, soft-spoken. No, the biggest light empaths that I have met have a mouth like a sailor's. They actually swear, but they have the biggest heart. So nice is not what you're looking for. You're looking how you feel around them because they have no judgment. The light empaths have no judgment. But when you are with the dark empaths, they will be nice, but you feel something off. They will be so kind because they help you when you're in trouble, but they use it as a ticket, like, okay, remember this? I helped you with this one. They will be the one who praises you for something. Oh, you were so fabulous in that speaking engagement, but you don't really feel it. Like, yeah, yeah, okay. But if you are, again, like a childlike, you be so grateful and you're like, oh, that's so nice. Again, remember, because light empath are not aware of any of this, of this game. They want to also get access to what you have. So if you have something juicy that they want, they will come in a different way as your best friend. And sometimes that takes years. They don't lose their focus. So, if this is if you are the game to hunt, they will be patient. And of course, if you created anything, they right there next to you and take your creation down right there. And they dump you or they discredit you or they just eliminate you somehow. They peer pressure. It's like, again, the peer. They are capable because they're so good of manipulating the masses and creating stories that the light empath cannot compete. Light empath has not the capability to do that. So it loses. It just walks away. It's just how it is, beaten down, right? Crucified all over again. So again, look for consistency because they cannot hold it very long. Like when you are with them all the time without really truly committing them, they will slip. And watch how they treat other people in the restaurants and when you travel and kind of like random because they will slip. They're not gonna be aware of it. They will let the guard down. And that's when you know they're not really that nice how they playing with you. So they'll be nice to you or the other way around. They will be so kind to help others, but they make sure you're watching them. So all of this is something to watch for. So they also can have this yo-yo thing going on. I see this in loving relationships. They love you so much, they're affectionate and they push you aside. They love you, affection, they push you aside. You're trying to get hold of them, they don't answer the phone, they're too busy. But then when you're like, oh, screw it, I'm doing something else. The minute you do something else, they do the yo-yo thing. You break up with them because you're so sick of the yo-yo, they'll come back. So again, the yo-yo could go on for years. Again, you're dealing with deception, you're dealing with a dark empath. They mirror you very well. We talked about that. They are literally mirror your interest, your likes, your dislikes. They have chameleon behavior. Yeah, I don't even know how they so good at this. And of course, they do not take responsibility. You never hear them to say, "I'm sorry." I'm sorry, but it will be the but there. That's really rare though, because they never say I'm sorry. But if they do, they justify somehow the action anyway. So you're never gonna hear true heartfelt apologies versus the empath, light empath. They'll take blame for everything. They're like, yeah, it was me because so much easier. Yeah, just dump it on me. I can deal with it. I was crucified so many times. Just pile it up. I can deal with that. So that's how you also can tell. And the moral empathy, they don't have that. The dark empaths just don't have that. That whole moral is turned off completely. Brandon, I was just going to ask you, is this screen the way we talked about, like, in that form on the top?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so you are now kind of like, all right, I think this is too much. I think you driving me crazy. The light empath saying to the dark empath, I need time, I need a space, I need to think this through. The minute you do that, they flip out. Because if you have a space and you can think for yourself, you become what? Pure water again. They can't have that. So they will try whatever it takes not to have you too far for too long. So that's just another thing. The light empath will go, oh, go, honey. If you need to take a break, go on a seminar, clear your head. Yes, please, because if you good, I'm good. That kind of like that. Because that's exactly how the light empath is. If you're happy, they are happy. If you're not, they can feel it. Remember, they manifestation of their environment. So now we are done with explaining the dark and the light. So what happens now? Where's the superpower? Because everybody signed up for the superpowers, right? The superpowers are coming. And what happens to the light empath now is awareness. Awareness of everything I have been saying. And once you have the awareness, and you believe me, you will have a floodgate of memories flooding back to every situation from your kindergarten all the way to your grandparents' backyard. I mean, every situation will be flooding, and you're going to go like, that too? Really? You're going to go like, wow. And so that is when you finally start bringing the energy of the essence of you, that little bit of the soul you have left behind in these relationships back to you. Okay. So we bring in the memories, bring you back the essence of your true light, empathetic nature, because you are now scattered all over. You don't even know where in the heck parts of you are because of the suffering and then the betrayal and everything else. You feel like so much of you are out there scattered. So it is now time for patience and kindness, really, to yourself, because when you go through it, you will feel potentially even depression for a few months, because if you realize that the closest people to you, your mom and your dad, your sister or your brother, have betrayed you, had used you, had deceived you, abandoned you. That's a lot. That's a lot. And that is the superpower of the empath. But we'll talk about it more about that, because it takes the courage to look at it and still hold the love. Still hold the love in your heart, even though you had been through this on this deepest level. Because if someone like your parent betrays you and utilize you for their own gain, how can you forgive, right? How can you forget? How can you trust again anyone in life if the closest people to you had been acted like that? So
it's 1:00.
So anyway, that is something to really, really sit with. But I'm going to jump in for some more information. What can you do once you have the awareness and you're still healing? What can you do in these relationships that you are currently in? And you are in it, like you can't help it. And now you're going to see the game. But now you're like, okay, I know the game. What do I do? Okay, so it's very easy. It's actually, no, it's simple, but not easy. How about that? Because when I was helping clients, wow, I should probably write a book, because the suffering people go through, and especially when you have now the family units and the family units are breaking up, right? Divorces, and the children are stuck in the middle, the collateral damage, and then they playing the game now, not like in one household, but two. These children are really messed up, right? So, and then the light empath are trying to fight and a battle in court system. And it's the court system does not care about the children. They don't. They want evidence. And guess what? The dark empaths make sure he doesn't leave any trails. It hides it so well. It makes a friends with the authorities, knows exactly who to have in the back pocket, so you don't expose them. And what do you have? Nothing. You just have a big heart. Who cares? Right? So it's really hard for light empath to go into the authorities and fight the battle of forces, because again, the light empath is not intellectually thinking ahead. Oh, I need to do this and this and that just in case this and this and that. It doesn't have that conniving, deceptive thinking to protect themselves. So they're so very, again, childlike, right? So think about childlike. So now you understand that you have to think like them. Now you are bringing the powers to the level of the dark empath. The dark empath, again, has extreme intelligence. And the more intelligent they are, the more dangerous they are. Okay. So they don't have one thing, they don't have an open heart. You, not you, but let's just say you are light empath. The light empath has the heart, but doesn't have the high intelligence of how to deal with that. So now we bring in the intelligence to the heart level. So you now need to think like them. You need to see the game. It's a chess game. That move creates that action. That action creates that reaction. And you have to use your intuitive senses. That's really, it's now actually, I'm inviting you to see it as a game because it is a game. It's a game of forces. It's a game of the souls. It's the game of the dark and the light. And it's not personal because if you are in a relationship and you are replaced, that person who replaces you plays the same game. So if you can depersonalize it, it's not about your wife, Amy. It's not about your boss, John. It isn't, it's just the light and the dark in the game. So you now need to like, okay, the game starts. But I encourage you to not lose your heart. The minute you lose your heart, you are stepping into dark empaths. And that is a dark versus dark. And you're just going to get what? Muddy. You need to hold that empathy with love. So the game that we playing now, nobody wins and nobody loses. It's a neutrality game. Okay, we bring in it to neutrality. So this is not about winning and losing. You have to be aware of, again, your weakest links because they are somewhere hidden deep and they can sense them. So you really need to do inventory of what you really, 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 really want. And that what you want is that's what's going to be put on a platter in front of you. Sometimes not directly from them, but that energy will come up in a different force or source. So you're still going to be dealing with that. So let's just say that you are dealing with a relationship that is just past being reasonable. You leave, somebody else comes in, they will have the same dynamics. So again, it's not personal. Just replace the players. They use, again, we talked about, they use the game of guilt and sympathy. And, again, I had a client, no, he was not my client. He was my kind of friend. And he was playing that kind of game. And I have realized that I couldn't deal with it anymore. And I exposed what he was doing. And he started bringing, literally, you couldn't make this up. This person, Lenka, I can't believe you. This person literally dies. I have to deal with them. And you are like that. You don't understand that I have to deal with this. But this was like the third funeral, man. Like, I understand people are dying. I even said that. I'm like, I understand people are dying every day. But I also have to go on in my life. So you deal with your people who are dying, and I'm going to deal with my life. So sometimes you have to become so obviously rude that people would see it as like, I can't believe you just said that. That's so rude. But you could see that game. It's a pattern now. Like, okay, yeah, people are dying. Okay, so this is your excuse. Come up with some other story. But you could see me as being, compassionate. I would be like, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I understand. But my project had to be done. So that's something to think about. They will literally use that guilt on you so deep that when something comes out of your mouth, you literally look like you are the most coldest individual, but you're not. They just put you in the position to you look like that. Do not run into decisions when you are around them if you have to be around them because they kind of corner you, confuse you, and then they demand answer right there. Always says, I have to run. Sorry, there's another meeting I have to go to. Don't never feel, because you already know who that you're dealing with and they're so skillful and you're not. You have to give them that. They have been their whole life. You're just starting. Okay. You have the heart, but they still have now the game and they upped it. Listen to your body because their body is like, you already know who you're dealing with and you have the tight chest and you dreading that phone call. You are already like, okay, what I'm gonna say, you already stressing out so much being around them. Another great sign that you're dealing with a personality. And with that, again, awareness. Now you know. You say very little or nothing. You also going to be bombarded with texts and emails in every direction. Do not respond. Or respond neutrality, like neutral, because the text or even thoughts are still energetic hooks. So when they pop up in your head, it's like a telepathic communication. You popped up in theirs, or they thinking about you. The minute they pop up in your head, and if you don't want to entertain that thought, just say delete, 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 just like you would do on a cell phone. Delete the message, because it will. If you entertain those thoughts, you already having exchange energetic. Okay, so depends where you want to go with that relationship, but I'm just giving you all these options. Um, let's see, recalibration. That's a good one. So it took me a long time to figure out what is like right and wrong and to which level, because our family units brought this mess into our existence. We do not necessarily know the right or wrong. We read it in the papers, we can read it in the psychology books, but somebody else says that. But how much yelling is okay? How much abusing it's okay? Like, where can you say, because the empaths, the light empaths make excuses for the dark empath. Oh, I understand. You had a long day at work. That's okay that you yelled at me. But and then it always comes like, oh yeah, sorry, I had a stressful day, sorry about that, or whatever. But this is again the same thing, is that when you have a recalibration, you need someone who sees clearly, who's wise, not smart, but wise. And it doesn't judge the dark empath. It just shows to you like, no, you know what? No, that's not right. That is not based in love. Person who loves you would not act like that. Because, you hear dark empaths like, well, I did this because I love you. Okay. That's really confusing. And even children hear that. So I had to yell at you because I love you. Very confusing. And this confusion, again, creates wobbly feet, right? So have someone who you can recalibrate with some wisdom, that not taking your side or taking the other person's side, just make it neutral. That's how you know the person's wise, because the wise people see the soul journey and both ends. I feel what recalibrates the light empath the most is it's nature. Nature holds the pattern of recalibration. Like, you know that you go to a hike in the forest, or you go to the beach, or you just sitting out there in the park eating your sandwich, and you just kind of daydreaming. And especially if you invoke the prayer of connecting with the nature, it is truly the biggest calibration, because you get this aha moments again, and you're like, heck no, I'm not dealing with that person. You will not get it if you are constantly swimming in that energy of the dark empath. um so we are now going into the another level of superpower. And we obviously understand the toxic pattern, right? So the light empath versus the dark empaths. The light empath gradually loses the mental and emotional strength, and eventually it's physically exhausted, right? Their health deteriorates, it burns out. And once you are kind of on the bottom of that pit, isn't that like natural that you become bitter and angry as well? Even though it's not your nature, it's because you are depleted. And when you're depleted, the dark empath usually just don't even bother until you go rejuvenate and you come back with some new juice. So as you are contemplating on all of this stuff, the truth finally starts rising up and you see clearly, right? We talked about that. And this is truly when healing starts. The healing starts when the empath, the light empath, steps away. It sees clearly. It sees the bird's eye view. This is where the awareness takes another level, and that becomes the superpower. Before, remember, I was talking about the awareness. Okay, you are being aware. Okay, I'm aware. But now you're aware and you decided, no, I'm stepping aside. I'm literally going out and I am not having anything to do with that. So then you regroup, you heal on a deep level. You look at all the betrayals and all the crucifixion you went through in your life, and you hold the love and matter what. That is the thing. That is truly, now I'm tapping into this superpower. You have been disappointed and heartbroken. However, you holding that. You had walked through some the hardest lessons in the earth school. You gain the deep emotional, intellectual, and intellectual intelligence. Think about this. You're not just reading about it. You lived through it without losing the love and humanity. So metaphysically, you become transformer. You know the movie, right? So think about this. How does this happen? The suffering reveals the wisdom, clarity, and inner strength. The suffering did, because you actually see the story of your mom, of your dad, of your friend, and you now you have empathy for them, and you sympathize with them as well, and you see it like, hey, dude, I know, I get it. You didn't mean to do it. That was just a program that you had, deflected on me, and I have participated. I had a choice, but I chose to dance with you. This is the dance between the light and the dark. And now the superpower is you had the choice. And now, because that's a choice with completely different awareness. When you are entering now in that field, you are no longer you abandon yourself in the game of manipulation. Okay. You are not playing that game anymore. You're standing strong and you are aware of the boundaries. You know where you started and you ending, and you know where they end and they start. So the water is not becoming muddy. I'm bringing that bottle. You are standing clear because you see, quote, quote, you see clearly. You feel, but you also now see. The intuitive eye, the third eye, is now wide open because the third eye, is oneness, is see oneness. The two eyes is the eyes of polarization, right? So if you see it through this, it is literally creating the oneness in us. So you have now you discern with wisdom, with unconditional love for those human beings that had hurt you. And they keep trying to hurt you. There's just a deep understanding. And that is really where the light empowered empath can see the game of the dark and holds the superpower. Transformer. The transformation happens in the heart. It is truly where the energy comes in and is able to make this magic and goes back out in the light. So it's like the dark enters, it gets purified in your heart and sends back. So it doesn't go to you, goes through you. And so you purify that energy. It's like devotion to love. I say this again because it just blows my mind every single time. It's a devotion to love because you see the truth in others without absorbing now their pain and negativity. Now you're strong and grounded with open heart. Nobody can shake you. You are wide open. You are vulnerable and you are courageous, and the energy goes through you, not to you. You're not absorbing that anymore. It goes through your heart. So what happens to the dark empath? Well, the dark empath doesn't gonna know what's hitting them because they are not capable. The dark empath at this point, they lost their game. They are not capable to tap into the higher vibrational frequencies of love, compassion, devotion to love. None of that. They don't understand it they can comprehend it, and they certainly cannot transmute it. So you have now the upper game because now you level in their intelligence and you up in the game with the heart. So now the game is even. Does that make sense? It's that you are no more quote, quote, victim. You never have been, but there's no more because now you are playing the game with the equal understanding. So now the dark empath, when they realize of your superpower that you are actually understanding what's going on, um, they will try to back off and go somewhere else. You're not going to be attracting them any longer. And that's the beautiful thing about it, because as you remember, I was saying that light empath had that program from the early on. And it was so hard to break the pattern because it was embedded in your cellular memory and you were inviting the same vibration because it was in you. But now, because you worked on so hard to raise your awareness of it, that is no longer the hook. So you're not going to be attracting this anymore. You're still going to look juicy. You're still going to be magnetic, but they come near. They almost like they little piranhas or little sardines. They come in, they kind of start nipping on you, but they figured, oh, that's a too big fish to swallow. They go somewhere else. And that's kind of where you know that when you attract the dark empaths again, you are now leveling to another level. So you're not dealing with your friends anymore. You may dealing with some corporations, or you are now the what's the word, whistleblowers. So there's a truth seekers out there who are getting to the really big games of dark empaths. And I just, gosh, God bless them, because that I can just imagine what they going through. Okay, so we are now understanding we are effortlessly exposing the darkness of the dark empaths because we no longer get sucked into confusion. We no longer drinking their Kool-Aid, and they know it. So light is the information of the truth, and love is the power of feeling. Okay, so think about this for a second. Light is the information of truth. Why? Well, because it's the photon energy, and the photon energy always brings information in. So when we have the sun, with the photon energy, it brings information constantly. So when you are the light being, you have a lot of light information versus the dark empath doesn't have it. They only get what you or somebody else like you will give them, right? But the love is the power of feeling. So love is information of truth, and love is the power of feeling. Here's the paradox of all of this. The paradox is that we attract that. That is what we seek on a soul level. That is both sides seeking that for the level of soul evolution. So you're never going to end, only if you are somewhere stuck in a cave in the mountains and you choose to be a hermit, and then you're doing your own evolution with God, that's fine. But if you are in part of humanity in a daily basis, you're going to be challenged with this polarization all the time. Now, the key is don't take it personal. So again, remember, the light empath does not fight darkness. It just illuminates it. That's it. What I love about this is that once you see, the eyes are the windows of your soul, right? Also, the eyes are receiving the light mainly through the eyes, right? The light is received through the eyes. So when your eyes see the darkness, it literally burns it. It already starts dissolving. You don't have to even say a word. Your awareness and quote, quote, seeing it, that's all you need to do. That is the most humbling aspect of this light empath, because you really don't have to do anything. I mean, you can if you, again, want to broadcast this to another level, but you remember, the light empath is not interested in right and wrong. It's interested in the oneness. So once you see something and you kind of go like, look at that. That's interesting. And that's it. That is not based in the truth. This is nonsense. This is whatever you want to call it. But I'm not buying that. I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid. And you can still continue conversing with them, but your eyes already, they know it. Your eyes already see right through them. And you see it in the wise people, you know. I like those people who sit on the porches somewhere in the South and they just like, rolling back and forth in the swinging chair. You look at them in the eyes and you just know. They just know. They've been here for 80 years or so and they just been there, done that. But not all of them. I know of dark empaths who are 80 years old and they're not losing their grip. They still going very, very hard with their mission to destroy the light empaths every day. Okay, so this is still happening. Not, and that's the thing you have to realize. It's not about you trying to change them. It's not about you. It's about between them, their soul, and their God. It's about you and your reaction to their action. That's really what it is. And so when you look at them with the wisdom and you say they just children of God, that's all they are, and these are the choices they're choosing, you bring in the compassion into it. So they're not going to change. And what also is interesting is that if you are meeting some empaths at this point of existence, and they trying to discredit you, they trying to call you names or whatever, it doesn't touch you anymore. You know who you are. And you know that the person who knows you know who you are. And at least you have one. One person in the world knows you, who you are. You are seen. You are blessed. You are really, truly blessed. If one person knows who you truly are, even if you lose yourself and you get muddied, they hold that vision of you in their heart and they can bring it back to that divine blueprint you came in with. So as we ending this particular webinar, we started with the family nucleus, and I want to end with that because again, it is every single one of us now responsibility to bring this to this next level and make sure that the families now have the support and the love on both ends from the mom and the dad, that they can bring the children in a pure love. It's not necessarily easy, I get it, but the children who come in now holding the love, the unconditional love, more so than in the past. It just, I see it even in our own children. It's that it amazes me in their friends, because we have so many kids and I see the dynamics. And I'm just observing how they interacting. And I even had a conversation with my dear friend who's a psychiatrist. And I told her, I'm like, I can't believe they actually like acting like this. They're so wise. And she goes, yeah, I wouldn't do that either. So it's like they carry this wisdom now. They 10, 12, 14, 15 years old. And they kind of somehow see the suffering of the dark empaths and they holding the light anyway. So please understand this, where we really need to bring the dynamics of the families back, and know that if you go in the back with Jesus, he was not accepted by everyone. He was actually kind of radical, right? He would be called extremist. He came here and he seeked the truth. And many people since then came with the same thing. And so don't look for recognition or some kind of a parade if you're doing something great. Most likely you're still going to be prosecuted in some way or crucified again, but it's not about that. This is exactly where we're heading with the Aquarius age. We're living in the Christ consciousness. Some people call it the fifth dimension. And so we will be living third dimensional existence in the fifth dimension. So we will be able to live in the love at all times with our human bodies. But if you are harnessing still some darkness, you will not be able to live fully in the fifth dimension. It's just not going to be able to hold it. So that's so important that whatever you're going to be experiencing over the next few months, write it down, because the minute you write it down, you again witnessing this. And so Anytime you're witnessing yourself going back and you bring in the power back with love and compassion and knowing that we are all all living the Aquarius age in the Christ consciousness. That's kind of what I wanted to end with, because the whole humanity is going that way. It doesn't matter what you see out there, just concentrate on what you want in this world, and it's only going to grow. So, again, thank you so much.